I found a bunch of parts on AliExpress to build a vintage GMT watch. The case is this sort of aged bronze. It just looks absolutely brilliant. I don't know if that is a bronze. Either way, it has a sort of a faux patina that's been added to it, which personally I'm a huge fan of. And then the bezel is also a sort of a vintage color with that deep blue and deep red, and I think it looks absolutely epic. I've also gone for an exhibition case back so that we can have this really lovely rotor, which has this engraved sort of paisley pattern on the back, this ornate design, which I think is just going to add a little bit of subtle elegance to the back. Probably my favorite part though is the strap and the dial, but look at this strap. This is a NATO strap, and I think this is going to really finish off the watch beautifully. Let's take a quick look at the dial. So here is the dial. Let's check it out. Gotta be very careful not to touch it, but there we go. It's upside down, but it's this bronze sort of copper. I don't know, yeah, that's a copper. Oh, look at that with the gold indice markers as well. That is an absolute stunner of a dial. And then to go with that is the matching sort of gold hands. So I think this watch is going to turn out absolutely beautifully. Now the movement is the NH34. Now the NH34 is the GMT movement, and this one really has come up in price quite a lot from when I did my last GMT video, and it does make sense. Obviously there's an increased demand, but also the micro brands are all using these Seiko movements, so there's no wonder they've all come up in price. But there's the movement there with a white date disc that goes around. So let's get on with the build. There is the movement. I've got this little movement holder, so I'm going to just plop that into there. And the first thing we're going to be doing is setting down the dial. So I'm sure we're probably going to have to cut off some little dial feet here. The reason why is because some cases will have the crown at 3 o'clock and others will have it at around 4 o'clock. So obviously there's different dial feet so that you can use the same dial on these different cases. So there we go. On this one, there happens to be 2 different sets of feet. So what we're going to have to do is just work out where this one needs to go and then snip off the ones we don't need. So there is that absolutely gorgeous sort of coffee color dial. That is just exceptional. So let's place this down and we can work out which ones we need to get rid of. You can see that the foot at the top is going to go in. So that little foot is going to go into that little hole, and then the one just below it we don't need, this one right here. This is the kind of thing that you want to check several times before committing to the snip. So now we can check the other foot, which we need to remove. So having a little look there, it's going to be this one right there, because the hole is just there. And then we don't need that foot, but that foot there is a little bit bent, so we might need to align that. Okay, so here we go. So I'm actually going to use a hand pusher because it's got a tiny little hole in there, and I'm just going to set that over the foot that is bent, and I'm just going to sort of straighten it a tiny bit. There we go. It did not need much at all. These are very delicate. So now I can just check that that looks much more vertical. Okay, and I'm now going to file down these tiny little nubs here just to make sure they're nice and flush. So there we have it. That is the dial feet snipped off and filed down. If it looks a little bit messy, obviously it's not a huge issue because it's underneath. So it's not really the end of the world. So it's now time to set the dial down onto the movement. So let's go ahead and place it on the top, and hopefully it's just gonna sit right on into place. There we go. That's absolutely stunning. So things are beginning to take shape. Next up is the hands. Wait a minute. I have made a mistake. Amateur hour right there. Can anyone work out what I have not done? We can remove the dial quite easily though, so that's okay. Right. So this little thing right here, if it's willing to leave its home. So this little thing here is a dial washer, and that is going to sit right over the center of the movement, just like that. So do not forget to put that down, like I did. There we go. Press down. Give it a little dust. Okay, hands time. Let's do it. So the first thing we need to do is pull out the crown all the way, and we're going to set the time. So there we go. So just rolling the date over right now so that we know that it is at midnight. The lovely big GMT hand. Place that down. A nice easy one to align because the hand goes all the way up to the top indices. Okay, so we can now take the little hand pusher and push that hand on. So it's not quite aligned, so I'm just going to nudge it. There we go. Okay, so that does look like it's on. I'm pretty happy with that. The only thing I would like to do is just check that it's actually aligning properly. So let's go ahead and just set the date again. So I'm just going to check. So believe it or not, my movement actually arrived effective. You can see I'm spinning the crown around and the GMT hand is staying completely still. So I'm going to attempt to fix this, although if this happens to you, just get your money back and then maybe try and fix it, but get your money back or get another one sent out. But basically, these little wheels here, these gears aren't engaging. So something's not working inside, because what should be happening when I spin the crown on the sort of second position after the manual wind is you can change the GMT hand, it's got a quick set, and you can change the date, but absolutely nothing was happening. So I began taking the movement apart. Now, I'm very new to all of this, so please forgive me. It's pretty ugly to watch, and if you're used to watching people like Wristwatch Revival, this is not good. It is very difficult to do work on these movements because they're just so small. But I am learning, and I'm actually in the middle of restoring a Seiko Willard. So I'm making a video on that. So very soon I'm going to be doing a full restoration and service of a watch, which I'm just so excited to show you and actually finish. I'm not actually finished it yet. So I've taken off the sort of calendar wheel, and we're now just about to remove a small plate that covers all of the small little wheels to do with the quick setting stuff. The keyless works. Yeah, terminology is also something I need to learn. So I'm just using a bit of Rodico to pick that up. Now, basically, the wheel that is reported as being faulty is a very small one that is right here. And I'm not sure what's wrong with it, but what I'm going to do is just replace it. Now, what you would normally do is order one and wait for it to arrive. But because I'm a YouTuber and I'm making a video and I need to do this quickly, I just took one out from another movement, and I will order a replacement wheel from AliExpress to then fix the other movement. But don't worry, I didn't just swap the movement out, I actually fixed it. So that's kind of cool, right? I'm putting the screws back in for this bridge plate, and as you can see, I'm having a hard time even just placing them down. It really is so difficult to work in this scale. You know, it's just so small. You know, I can't even get the screwdriver on straight. I mean, I do think it matters what screwdrivers you're using, but you would never have thought it'd be so hard to tighten a screw. So there's the date wheel going back on, and then there's a little spring that we just need to pop on, which kind of gives the calendar wheel, the date wheel, tension. And then we can put this top plate back on and tighten up all of the screws. So with all those screws back in, you can see the date wheel is spinning freely and the GMT hand is sort of snapping around, or the wheel for that is snapping around. And I can change the time. So I'll go ahead and put the dial back on and put the GMT hand back on, and we're back where we were before, but this time the movement is not broken. Okay, so that all turned out to be quite a mission, to be honest with you, but we are there now. So as you can see, the GMT hand is on, and I've currently got it pulled, the crown pulled out all the way so I can change the time. And you can see the GMT hand is going around all the way. And then when we get it back to 12 o'clock, the date's changing because we know that it's been 24 hours. So there we have it. So the next hand to place down is the hour hand. So there we have it, the hour hand is on, and then we can go ahead and place the minute hand down. Now, to be honest, it is a little bit more sort of clunky looking on the camera, but Rodico is just the best way to get these hands down. It is otherwise a little bit difficult because then you have to be holding on to the hand with the tweezers, or you have to rely on it just landing where you want. So Rodico doesn't scratch, doesn't leave a mark, and you can just use it to hold the hand in place. As we set that hand down. So let's just see what we're doing now with the time. So there's 1 o'clock. That all looks pretty good so far. Let's get it to 6 o'clock. That looks pretty good. Let's have a look again at 12 with the GMT hand. Oh, that is absolutely perfect. Look at that. Very pleased with that. Okay, and now let's see where our date jumps over. So we're in spec now, within the 5 minute sort of plus or minus. Wow. That might be the best one I've ever done. So the final hand is, of course, the seconds hand. So for this, you really do want to be using some Rodico. Again, it's just so small otherwise to try and hold. And it's very difficult to balance it on that post. Did I just get that on instantly? Let's find out. I did. Wow. Okay, let's see. How's the clearance of the hands? Oh, so that seconds hand is tilted a bit down. There we go. So the next thing to do is remove the dummy crown and stem. So let's go ahead and do that. So I like to just sort of suspend the movement in the air so that you don't damage the, the dial in the hands. And then holding my tweezers in this kind of weird little pincer motion, and then going to press down on the small little lever that releases the crown and stem. So there we have it. And then I can set that back down onto the cushion. And now it's time to open up this beautiful case for the first time. And the retention ring falls out. It's interesting. I wonder if we're going to need that. We probably will. Let's see. Let's do that now and just work it out together, because it just fell out. No, that doesn't seem to fit. That looks like it must be for a smaller movement. So let's just see how we get on placing this down over the top. Here we go. Oh my goodness me. Wow. Damn. Super reflective on camera, but you guys were able to see the stealth watch pretty fine in the end, so I'm not going to start moaning about it. So let's flip this over and take a look. Yeah, that all looks to be absolutely fine. So now let's sort out the crown and stem. So we can take the crown from the case and the stem that came in the movement package, and I'm just going to give it a very quick tighten up. There we go. And then we can set that down into place. There we go, that is in. So of course, it is far too long. Let's work out how long it is. So it's about 6.7 millimeters. Here we go. Okay, let's see how that is doing now. Maybe a little bit too... We need a bit more. I think we need a bit more. Let's see how it screws in. Yeah, tiny bit more. So now it's time to put a tiny bit of Loctite onto the stem. So let's go ahead and just tap the edge of that. There we go. Screw the crown on. So let's place it into the movement again for the last time. Okay, so that has gone in perfectly. So if we have a look, we're on manual wind, and then we can pull it out one, pull it out again, all the way back in. A little bit hard to do with finger cots on, but that is now tightened up to the case. So before we replace the rotor, let's just check and see if the movement gets clamped down with the case, because it hasn't come with any sort of ring that holds the movement in place. So let's just take a quick look. If I tighten this up, that is not moving. That has worked. So I have this strap tool. This is an old version strap tool, and I've tried to find an equivalent on AliExpress, but I can't find one. But it just fits these Seiko rotors beautifully. So if I go ahead, place that in the center, you can see it just perfectly fits. So we're going to go ahead and unscrew the old rotor, and then we can remove that from the movement, grab the beautiful new one, and very gently place it down. Would you look at that? That looks gorgeous. Let's see if that, there you go, you can see everything is engaged. Okay, one final little air blow in here, and one in the back of the case. I'm going to grease the gasket here. Just to give it a good chance of being waterproof. Set that back down into the case. There we go. And let's now give this one final dust inside the case and the case back and place that down. Wow, look at that. That looks so sweet. So I'm actually going to tighten this up properly to give this a good old chance of being waterproof. So I'm going to place this into my universal Seiko case holder. Now this is not something I can link to, unfortunately. This is actually like a proper Seiko product that I got from a Japanese auction site, but I'll leave a link to the auction site I use if you want to try and find one. So that is in there now, nice and tight. So this is a kit that just came with a job lot of watch tools that I bought. Fairly certain this is quite a cheap sort of Chinese one, but they do tend to work still. So let's go ahead and get the one which I think is the right one. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, definitely. And this kind of slots into the tool, this little handle here, and then we can actually get a nice firm grip on this case and tighten it up. So there we go. That is that. I've never actually used that before, so really pleased to get a chance to use it. And that is now going to definitely be very, very, very much so waterproof. Alrighty, so we need to do a couple of very fun things, but first, let's flip this over. Boom. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so it's now time to place down the bezel insert. So these cases come with different options. You can select different options on AliExpress. So I went with this one, but there's lots of different ones that you can go for. This is the GMT, kind of blue and red. Now, you don't necessarily need to align this, but I'm going to. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you can rotate it around. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that little arrow at the top is going to be perfectly at 12. But it's got so many clicks in it, so many, that it doesn't really make much difference. You can get it right. Now, this is not a bi-directional bezel, but that's okay. So there we have it. The bezel is now in. Just going to give that a nice sort of rub with the microfiber cloth. Make sure it's in properly. And then we can take off the protective film. Boom. Oh boy. Oh my goodness me. That is a chunk of style right there. Look at that. So the final thing for us to do is place the NATO strap onto the watch. Let's screw that crown back in again. And pull it all the way through. So it is going to be covering up that rotor, but it's a nice little Easter egg for when you want to show someone. And the good thing about NATO straps is that you can really, really easily swap them out again. So there we have it. Look at that. You are going to have to let me know what your thoughts are on this watch. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts. It looks amazing. I personally am a huge fan of that. So it's actually got a little deployant clasp here, which is quite nice. So let's go ahead and work out how that works. So I'm going to assume it's something like this. And, oh right, no, hang on, you need to put those under there. There we go. Let's get that on the wrist. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness me. I am so pleased with how this has all turned out. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to attempt to show you how this actually works in case you do want to buy one yourself. So if you're going to change the date, make sure you're doing that with the hands below the, in the lower half. Basically, you don't want to do it when the hand is anywhere up here, because in the movement, the wheels have set in motion. They've started turning in order to turn the date disc. So what you don't want to do is be interrupting that process and changing the date. So where it is right now is absolutely fine. So it's currently just unscrewed and we're manually winding. Turning it clockwise is going to change the GMT hand, and you can see that it's snapping to each of the hour markers on the bezel. Well, more or less, because it's actually 1/4 to, it's not going to be quite on each one, but it's more or less. And then if you go counterclockwise, you can change the date. So obviously the date is the 28th, so I'm going to go back to that. And then if you pull it out again, you can start changing the time. So what you would do with a GMT watch is set the GMT hand to the GMT time zone. One more there. So the GMT hand is now pointing at the 16 because it's 24 hours. So now my watch is kind of pointlessly telling me GMT and GMT. But the idea would be that you would then be able to set sort of multiple time zones. So typically you would change the hour. So the hour would have like a jump that you could independently move the hour. That isn't how this works on this watch. So you could either set the GMT hand. I mean, if you live in America, obviously just set it to GMT and then you know what time it is in London. And then you can use the bezel by sort of clicking it, you know, plus or minus the hours by you know, measuring it on here, and then you can measure an additional time zone around the bezel as well. But for me, to keep things simple, I'm going to basically just have it as a 24-hour hand that's going to go all the way around. And then if I do go abroad, I can change the hour hand to the local time and keep the GMT on the GMT time, so I know what time it is in the UK. Or you could set the GMT hand to, for example, New York. So you could have your GMT, if you're in the UK, be in the New York time zone. So that is it. It's an absolutely beautiful thing. Lots of function, lots of use, but also impeccable, stylish, and clean. And I'm just very, very pleased with it. It looks so interesting. And yeah, I'm just really excited to wear it with a nice sort of shirt and some chinos. It's absolutely beautiful. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. That is going to be it for this video. All of the parts and the tools are in the description. I'll catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.